region is plan B, plan C, plan D. How do you organize which festival you're going to choose in each country, and how do you maneuver between regional premiere, local premiere, etc. So that's a really big part of our job.
Yeah, I mean, it was said before, I think like it's more like a soft effect for us distributors, as in a way that nowadays if you have a poster of the film and you have like 3 or 5 or 10 festivals, it has to make a difference for the audience, but it helps you to create a campaign. It's the first time you see an audience reacting, getting reviews, getting maybe already some kind of marketing material. So I think that for that part, it is important to us, but then we could also launch for us a festival which is more commercial, or maybe just also an art house film, but maybe not such like an author festival kind of film, but like more sort of a mainstream art house film, which is not super amazingly directed or anything. It can do very well without locally, without having a big festival premiere as well. But the question is again, also as a distributor, how would I get to know the film if it's not been at the festival? So it's all about attention in the end, I think.
Plus, like just one thing to add is that the cast is less and less key into selling. Like when you look at French stars, I mean, there's not so many anymore. So meaning that you cannot, the cast is not a marketing tool anymore. So which means you're gonna need the press, and if you want the press, you need festivals.
Yeah, exactly. There is
but not all movies need festivals.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That was kind of the conclusion as well. That I mean, some go directly to the market. There's a very interesting question and very topical. I mean, for us who are in this part of Europe, I mean, 1 hour to the border of Russia. And maybe you want to answer this because the question is from Anu, and it's about the Russian territory. So when you are selling European film, can you sell to Russia, or should Russia be under sanctions? What do they think about this?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go for it. So I live in Estonia, so we have had a really intense debate with my partners, and we decided that depriving people from culture was not helping. So we sell to distributors that have escaped, that are based abroad, but we still sell. We give access to the Russian audience to our films. Most of the majors don't. Then the film, they all are distributed and pirated, and they are still being seen in Russia. I don't know. That it's a tough debate.
But I think also to expand the question, I mean, first I'm going to answer about when I was working for a sales company, and actually I lived in Russia for a bit. I was working at the French Institute in Moscow, and I knew the industry quite well. And then when I was working with festivals for our films, after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Moscow Film Festival, which is basically like Putin's friends, they were requesting some of our films, and they were ready to pay crazy fees. It was absurd. Like they were just begging for whatever film they could get, even the most irrelevant. And basically we cut ties with them, but I was also in touch with the French Institute in Moscow. I think Unifrance was also really concerned about the situation going on. So I think like even in the market, it makes sense to take that into account. And to go further, as a French distributor now, for instance, again, it's not following trends, but if a film comes from a certain country, which is making the news at the moment, which is also funding culture in a way that is beneficial for it to kind of, promote itself as a country that is so deep and creative in its soul and whatever, we will consider it more specifically. Because we know what's at stake, we know the communication that can even go beyond us and how it can impact our strategy. So, yeah.
And just to add to that, as I was saying, we're more an acquisition company than a sales company.
Yeah.
And we do not acquire Russian films anymore. I mean, we did in the past work with Kirill Serebrennikov, who's escaped and is not based in Berlin anymore, but we don't acquire Russian films.
Do the others want to answer?
Well, it's forbidden by the European Union to sell directly to Russia. It's also forbidden to sell arms to Russia, and all the European countries are selling arms like crazy.
Mm.
It is a very tricky situation. My company was behind the sale of Oleg Sentsov movie that was in Berlin, that he co-directed while in prison, and we have sold Ukrainian movies. We've never sold Russian movies before. But nowadays, after so many times, there are companies that are not based in Russia that are acquiring the rights to Russia.
Yes.
And it's a bit hypocritical, but we are not selling to Russia, but we're selling those companies the rights to screen the movies, provided that certain sanctions disappear, etc. But it's a very tricky question, because if the more we deprive them from access to what we do, the more we will alienate. If peace comes and the solution is found, which sounds very difficult, we have alienated a whole country against what we represent. So yes, sanctions are good, but at the same time, in cultural communications, it's a tricky subject. Also, some of those companies buy for Ukraine as well, which is very surprising. So you find yourself in a very questionable situation. On top of that, we represent movies from countries that do not have sanctions with Russia. And they are not in agreement with what the position of the European Union is vis-a-vis Russia. So that creates also a conflict. When a Uruguayan director asked me, he was invited to Moscow, I said, of course I will not accept, but it's your movie, you do what you please. I will not prevent you from your part, do what you think is the right thing to do. So, it's a very tricky situation, which of course we are all pro-Ukraine, and we are very scared of what is going on, and we know we have a fascist in our doors. But